Hey, all, Sam Robb here, samrob2020.com, and I'm here with Chris, Jeff, and Clayton, and we're going to be talking about what life is like these days with COVID-19 out there in the wild and changing the way we interact with each other. I'm coming to you from the Robb Farm, being currently powered by a Generac generator because we had a tornado come through a couple of days ago. Nothing damaged except for a bunch of trees down, and unfortunately that also took down some power lines. So we're roughing it. Our apocalypse is a little more rustic than others. So, but we'll start off. Chris, we'll start off with Chris, and then Jeff and Clayton. So why don't you introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, my name's Chris, and I live in Wasilla, Alaska, and my wife is trying to call me right now. So I'm going to bow out for a second here and let you guys go ahead.
Okay. Jeff.
So my name is Jeff Souther. I live in a small town called Seabrook in New Hampshire, 50 years old. I work for a distribution company in the hearth business. We distribute gas fireplaces, wood stoves, pellet stoves to smaller retailers throughout New England, New York, and the Mid-Atlantic states. But I'm currently kind of furloughed for a few weeks until this gets through. So I find myself having a lot of extra time recently.
Okay. Clayton.
My name's Clayton Hatley, and I am from the Midwest, more particular the Heartland, in a town called Oskaloosa, Iowa. I currently work at best way to put it is we make hog feed, and we supply a lot of hog feed to different countries, different large farms and whatnot. Yesterday I was sick, so now I got to figure out how to get back to work.
Okay, we'll circle back to you, Chris.
Okay, sorry guys. Yeah, up here in Alaska, I've in 3 weeks out of work currently. I have at least another week to go. Fortunately, my boss is giving us half pay, so that helps a little bit, but still, it hurts a lot. But we're probably experiencing the same things you guys are down there, where we have all the restaurants are closed except for pickup and delivery service. The only stores that are really open are, grocery stores, home improvement stores, things of that nature. All the mom and pop shops are shut down for the most part. So, it's bleak up here as well.
Yeah. So just to ask you guys, and the whole point of this is to talk to people from different parts of the country. I've talked to Chris, you'll know Fish, Florida. I talked to Dave Sexton down in Florida. Talked to a fellow who's a city council member out in Ohio. Now we've got Alaska. I'm sorry, Jeff, you were New Hampshire, right?
Yes.
So it's probably as far apart as you can get from each other. At least from one coast to the other, and covering the middle of the nation too. So, I'll ask you, Clayton, what have you seen? How's your life changed with COVID-19, with all the different things happening in the world?
So with COVID-19, I've seen a lot of different changes here. As far as you get to see a lot more going on with the political realm of how corrupt politics can absolutely be amidst government officials, even out here in the state of Iowa, as well as things like, so I was working at an axe throwing club, and what happened there is when the governor came about and she made the proclamation for pretty much almost every single business at the time to shut down. At that point, I ended up having to, one, file for unemployment. Two, I found out how corrupt that process actually is, filing for unemployment, because I had a small gap in which I was unemployed and I didn't file for unemployment at that time. So, needless to say, they weren't going to give me the unemployment in which I was filing for. So I ended up having to go to a temp agency and get a job. Well, now, like I was kind of just briefly saying before, now I was just sick last night with a small stomach virus, and now I'm having to find a way to get back to work and call in a doctor's office that I cannot even get into to go in and see a doctor to one, prove that I was sick, or two, even get the okay to go back. Obviously, you have the things that are pretty common across the U.S. You saw the buying sprees of toilet paper and all of these items that people have been deeming as essential necessities to have in your home. And obviously, that's kind of affected everybody, I feel, across the world, really. So,
Yep. That's absolutely the toilet paper. I don't understand that. I honestly don't. I live with 3 women right now. I've got my wife and 2 teenage daughters, and we still don't go through that much toilet paper. I don't understand why people feel like they needed that. But
It's the
so Jeff,
monkey see, monkey do.
yeah, Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, it's on the toilet paper
Obviously,
thing. I heard the CEO of Walmart today saying right now they're selling a roll a day, a roll for each person in the U.S. a week currently right now. And then you don't even count in all the other grocery stores or anything like that. I'm like,
wow.
where's it going to? Because I haven't seen it anywhere. Other than an occasional roll here or there. So, life for me has been it's been interesting. I was in New Orleans 4 weeks ago for a trade show. We had a conference call. We flew down on Tuesday, so the Friday before we had a conference call about whether we still wanted to go or not, because they had said that we're definitely going to have it. So we decided as a group. We looked at New Orleans, we looked at Louisiana. There wasn't any cases at all in Louisiana at the time. We're like, okay, sure, we'll make a go of it. And so we flew down on Tuesday, March 10th. Louisiana announced its first case. And then on Saturday night, we were leaving a restaurant on Bourbon Street, and the police were going through, sending everybody home at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And that's when we kind of went, that's really weird. Like, let's get out of here before this place, this place gets a little nuts and people start to riot. By the time we left Sunday morning, there was over 100 cases, and most of those were in the New Orleans area. And now you look at what's there, and it's one of the hotbeds of the country. I came home. I lived with my 79-year-old dad. When I got back to Boston, I checked into a local hotel because I didn't want to, do anything to infect him or anything like that. And so I was there for over a week before I actually came home. But because of that, and his recent health issues that he's had, I go to the grocery store, minimal errands out. I'm not working at the moment, or doing very little, but mostly at home, teleconferences, things like that. Catching up on some Netflix stuff, doing some good reading, trying to stay off of social media a little bit because that can be a little crazy. You got both sides there going back and forth. I don't watch the news as much as I used to right now. Maybe a little CNBC to see how the market's doing, and that's about it these days. So, but the grocery stores here, one of the major chains, so many people per 1,000 square feet. Lines outside. When one person leaves, another person can go in, and it's a little odd seeing that. Essential businesses, but then you have places like ice cream parlors and things like that that are still open. The local adult store in my town is open. I mean, how are they an essential business? And so there's a lot of people skirting around that, essential business thing. And I think at first I was kind of skeptical about how serious this was, and now you see what's in New York City or some of the other areas like Philadelphia now they're saying as well. It's scary, and so I just try to be as cautious as I can and limit my time around others. And so it's me, my dad, my youngest son, who's 20, lives with us as well, and we're all pretty much just shut in right now at the point.
Yeah. I had to go out today to Lowe's to pick up some equipment, some extra power cords and whatnot, so that we could actually hook the generator up so the girls could get online and do their classwork. And it was really strange for me because normally Lowe's has these aisles where they have all sorts of displays down the center, and those are all gone. And it's just these big wide paths with one person on one side and one person hugging the other, kind of eyeing each other as you walk by. Everybody in masks and gloves, and it's a little strange. So, Chris, how about you? How are things up in the Great White North?
Well, probably I think we're doing a little better off than from what you guys have been talking about. We currently only have 226 confirmed cases, and 32 recovered and 7 deaths. We're a population of over 700,000 in the state of Alaska total. So I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's total, 700,000 total in the state of Alaska. So Anchorage being the largest city, they have close to 400,000 population there, which is where most of the cases of the virus are at the moment. I think there's 2 out here where I live in the what we call the Valley, which we're about an hour from Anchorage. So, the store closures and whatnot. I think that we were very proactive in doing the social distancing here, and which is why we don't have very many cases. And I'm pretty sure that most of the cases that are here were brought in from outside. Actually, I know they are, because the first 10 cases that were here were brought in from outside. I know that for a fact. They all came in on airplanes, which is basically the only way you can get up here. So we're pretty well isolated from everybody else as far as that's concerned. So I think which is why our numbers are really low as far as how many cases we have. I'm hoping that because we have so few cases that we'll be able to recover from it a little faster. As far as what's going to happen for the rest of the nation, I'm not quite sure. And then once this does clear up here, are we going to let people start coming back up? Right now, if you fly up to Alaska, you have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks before you can even go up and talk to anybody. So, that's some of the things that have been happening up here. So yeah, it's different. We mask up and glove up when we go out, and wash our hands frequently when, and wipe down all the surfaces with the Clorox wipes all the time, 4 or 5 times a day. So just to keep it at bay. So,
yep.
Yeah.
So are you guys still in operation, your business, or are you?
No, right now my business, I'm in tourism. And
oh yeah.
So yeah, we're not running at the moment. So I'm actually supposed to be what's today? The 9th? Yeah, I should be in Indiana right now getting motorhomes ready to come to Alaska. That is not happening at the moment. So
yeah,
that was my son that just walked by. So
good looking kid. Yeah, takes after his mother, right?
Yeah, well, exactly, because he's stepping for me. So
so next question I want to ask you guys real quick. What do you see happening in your communities with the reaction to all these different changes, the shelter in place, the stay at home, the social distancing? I know here in Pennsylvania, my wife and I have gone out for walks periodically. I'm a big walker. I like to go out every day if I can, and we've actually seen tons of people, a lot more people than we would have expected, just getting out and getting some sunshine, getting some exercise, and saying hi to people, from a distance, but at least getting a little bit of that. What have you guys seen in any changes in your neighborhoods or your communities about how people are dealing with this, or how people are coming together to help other people?
I've seen, I live in a small community and seen a lot more people out walking, the big circle, the big loop, basically where the houses are. My middle son drops off his dog in the mornings, and so we'll either myself or my other son will take him out for a walk at a local state park or something like that. And seeing some people out there, but not seeing a lot. Did a 3 miles the other day, and maybe saw a half dozen people total. But so here, people seem to be a lot more shut in. There's a lot of people out there saying, stay in the house. You don't go outside. And then there's the other half of people going, I need some fresh air. I gotta get out of the house somehow.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people. I don't think I can stay in the house all day. I gotta get out of here every now and then. So
that's one of the things I noticed with and some people, I guess, aren't really aware that in the United States you don't necessarily have like we've got the CDC, and you may have like the Pennsylvania Department of Health, but each county has its own health department usually, and things can vary from one side of the street to the other. And one of the things I've been very grateful for here in Allegheny County is that our health department explicitly said, hey, yeah, you can get out. If the weather's good, by all means get out and go hiking. Just don't just do it with a couple of people. Don't do it with your family. Don't do it in a group.
Exactly. That's what we're trying to do here. And I live in the very southeast corner of New Hampshire, which in the county that I'm in is one of the 2 hard hit counties in New Hampshire. But there's only still about 700 and some change cases in the whole state. But Massachusetts is I think 17,000 cases now, and the county directly south of me, right over the border, is I think 16 or 1,700 of those cases. Or no, wait, no, there's over 3,000 cases I think of it. So, so a lot of cases not that far away from us. So,
yeah,
and we're in a non-tax state, so a lot of people come over the border to buy their shopping. So I see a lot of stuff on the local community pages about, I wish all these Massachusetts plates would stay home or not come over sometimes. So
yeah.
Yeah, so for things here, there's been a lot of people out and about still, even against a recommendation from things from as far as the state level government, which is for the most part has been the biggest governing authority over the state of Iowa. For the most part, a lot of the county health boards have just went with what the governor says versus having their own stand. So you see a lot of people um, out and about. And Kim Reynolds, it's been really interesting listening to her go back and forth on her 2 different arguments that she's always making. One minute she's saying stay at home. Next minute she's like, oh, you're free to go outside. Um, very unclear message from Kim Reynolds on that all itself. And if I myself, if I'm not out, if I don't have to go to town, I don't go to town at all necessarily, just because one protecting yourself. But other than that, I mean, that for a while when I was out and I was trying to run for county auditor and get the signatures that I needed, I know I talked with you briefly about it before, and that's when you turned me on to open the ballots. Um, because of COVID-19, I was unable to go out and get the signatures needed. So that's a big thing I'm seeing affected. I think probably across the board in every single state in the U.S. in such an important election year. So just I think I think that's it. And just a lot of people are like, oh, you can wave at me, stay 6 feet away. Um, don't shake my
Yeah.
hand. Don't breathe on me.
Yeah. There's definitely a little bit of paranoia. You're like, okay, why are you getting so close to me? What's going on here? And then again, it is very interesting, walking into a store and seeing a bunch of guys wearing bandanas. Like, is this a holdup? No, it's just life as usual right now. So,
Yeah.
how about you, Chris?
Yeah, they've actually been very proactive in telling us to get outside. Don't get yourself cooped up in the house all the time. The only problem is it's still about 32 degrees outside, so it's a little chilly at the moment. So. But we do have some nice days. Last couple of days have been nice and sunny and whatnot. So it's been getting up to about 40 during the day. So I just sent the boy and the dog for a walk for a half an hour just to get him out of the house for a little bit. So he's been stuck playing video games all afternoon. So so we do see that. They are definitely telling us to not travel in between communities, however. So here I'm in Wasilla. I got Palmer next door. Houston's above us. We're not supposed to be traveling into other communities or going to Anchorage or anything like that unless it's dire need that you need something. Like there's a store in Anchorage that's not out here. Like there's Costco in Anchorage. I don't have Costco out here. So if I have to go to Costco, then I have to go to Anchorage to do that. So, but other than that, doctor's visits and whatnot, then you're pretty much relegated to stay in your own communities. And that way doing that, they're trying to keep it contained, each case contained in
Yeah.
their own community. So.
That's interesting. That's one of the things that really has kind of bothered me about some of the reactions to dealing with COVID-19 is that there seems to be this one size fits all. Here's what you must do. You must stay, like you were saying, Clayton, you must stay in your home and make sure you get out. And unless it's absolutely essential. And by the way, your beer distributor is essential. At least here in Pennsylvania, it is, right? But they closed the state stores. So I guess, going out and getting a case of beer is okay, but going out and getting a bottle of wine isn't. Unless you go to one of the few grocery stores that it's just such a mishmash and muddle. And I think it's because instead of saying, you know what, we should have a different rule for Philadelphia, where you've got, whatever the population is, 400 people per square acre or whatever. We're going to impose the same rules there that we're going to impose on Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is Amish country, and we're going to impose the same rules on, out in the middle of Iowa versus LA versus up there in Alaska. When different strategies really seem to be called for. Isolating communities up in Alaska seems like, as soon as you said that, I was like, well, yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense for where you're at. Wouldn't work so well in Pittsburgh. We're a lot more integrated than that. But still, it's we're obviously not doing the same sort of draconian lockdown that New York is doing. So it would be really nice to see some people acknowledging that different communities and different population densities call for different strategies, so that we didn't have so many people out of work, so that we didn't have so many people worrying about whether or not they're going to be able to pay their mortgage or even whether they'd have a job in a couple of weeks. So, which kind of segues into the next question. And we'll go ahead and we'll go back around the other way. Start with you, Chris. Two parts here. First one is, what do you think we're doing right, or what do you think, as communities and as individuals and as state and federal governments, and what do you think we're doing wrong? What do you think we've missed or screwed up, or could be doing better?
I think that definitely the social distancing, washing your hands, being more sanitary is always a good thing.
It's scary that we needed a plague to make us wash our hands, but yeah.
But I don't think that my personal opinion, just based on some of the things that I've read from some doctors and whatnot, I don't think that we should have closed everything down like they did. I personally think that they should have just segregated the elderly people that were most at risk and let everybody else continue on with life as normal, so that this thing could actually just go through and be done with in a matter of a couple of weeks, rather than right now they're stretching it out longer and longer and longer. The longer we continue to be locked down, the longer it's going to stretch it out. And that's my personal opinion, obviously, but that's how I feel, and what I think should have been done would be just to let it run its course.
Yeah, there are definitely people talking about the fact that the economic issues that we're facing, the social issues, that there's an uptick in suicides, there's an uptick in domestic abuse, because you got people that are basically locked in the same house with each other. So there's a lot that goes into it, aside purely aside from dealing with COVID-19. It's a bad situation. You've got one bad hand and another bad hand, and you need to kind of find the least worst in both cases. Do you anything in particular you think we're doing well?
Yeah. Well, obviously, like I said, sanitary measures are definitely a good thing. I can't really pinpoint anything that great at the moment.
Okay, so we're not doing anything too horrible, but we are doing some things good.
I think that the local governments are the state and local governments are not doing as good of a job as they could be doing, unfortunately. Especially Alaska's state government, they are using it to forward their own personal projects. Unfortunately, just like like we're reading, the Democrats are doing in the federal government with the stimulus package. They've got all that extra pork belly attached to it that doesn't need to be there. Alaska's government is doing the same thing, unfortunately. So we have I don't know if you guys are familiar with a permanent fund dividend up here.
A little bit.
Each Alaska resident gets a check once a year from the oil royalties that was started back in the 70s. And two governors ago, figured some loophole because it was supposed to be protected from the government using that money for government subsidies. And so he found some kind of a loophole or something, or he broke the law. We're not quite sure which. But it was in our Constitution that they weren't supposed to be able to touch it. But somehow he got his fingers on it. And so now every year they're continuing to take more and more from that money for state government, and less going to the people, the citizens of Alaska that are supposed to be getting that money. So a lot of us are getting very fed up with that, and they're going to find out about it in November when they don't work there anymore. So,
good for you. I hope that happens. And we're actually seeing some of that here in Pennsylvania. Obviously, at the national level, I've commented before. There's acts like Earn It and a couple of others that they're trying to ram through that have absolutely nothing to do with COVID-19, have absolutely nothing to do with the pandemic or health even at all. But they're just like, hey, this is a chance to, while everybody's looking that way, let's go ahead and get this through. And you absolutely have to be on your toes about that. Keep an eye on your state. Keep an eye on your local government, and make sure that they're not using this as an excuse to slide something in under the table.
Sure.
So, how about you, Jeff? Anything? What do you think we've done well, and what do you think we could have done better, or that we've absolutely screwed up?
I think communication's been really good. The governors here, both in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, they have their daily press briefings. They're long, hour-ish, answer a lot of questions, provide a lot of information, so you kind of know what's going on, where the trend's at, what they're thinking the trend's at, which is, that's a moving target every day, it seems like right now. Mm-hmm. Here in New Hampshire, they seem to think that the social distancing that they put in place back in the middle of March is working, with closing the restaurants and the bars and only making essential businesses stay open. They're now saying that they think that's working better than they thought it would work, and they're seeing that they might be seeing some light at the end of the tunnel.
I hope so.
Yeah. Even communication from Washington, I don't watch that too much, but even then, he's on every night, and with his group of people, and some of it's informative, and some of it you just have to kind of turn it down a little bit and not pay attention. So for good, I think the social distancing measures, while they hurt economically, hurt very bad, myself personally, and millions of others. I think in some areas it was the correct thing to do. I think in some of the more sparse areas, probably not. I wish there had been some other areas like Florida, which they had enacted theirs a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Not had all those kids down there for spring break, and even a week or two after it,
Yeah.
they still didn't really
Yeah.
do anything about it. So, and I have an old friend that's sitting in the hospital right now that I don't think he's going to make it because he already had many issues beforehand. So, but that's a whole nother story. So, so yeah, some of the measures good. Some of the other measures, I think, for bad. I'm sure this will be debated for years to come. Was how prepared were we, and could we have been more prepared at a time? And
Yeah.
I think that's where there'll be a lot of issues that will come out, and everyone will be throwing everyone under the bus for the next decades to come.
Yeah.
Sure.
No. And the social distancing is that was really interesting hearing you say that even though it's hurting you personally, that you think it was the right thing to do. And
It took me.
I actually good.
It took me a while to get to that point. I mean, at first I was
Yeah.
like, that's crazy, but like I said, I think having my 79-year-old father who went through a cancer issue last year, that made me kind of see things from his point of that, hey, if I bring this into this house,
Yeah.
he's not going to make it. So,
Yeah.
So that's why. I mean, and that's primarily when someone close to you, I think like that, it makes it seem a little bit more real, I think.
I think so too. Yeah. It's also interesting to me because one of the things that I hear often from people is that they think that Americans have forgotten what self-sacrifice is like, and what it is to not say gimme, 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 and put me first. And actually, what I'm seeing a lot of in this crisis and dealing with this pandemic is individuals who really are putting their family first. Talking about their whether it's their fathers or mothers or extended family, putting their church family first, saying, hey, you know what, we don't need to come together. We've got live streams. We can worship that way. Putting their communities first, worrying about. We've got a neighbor who has some medical issues, and we've offered to do whatever shopping she needs in order to help her stay at home, even if it puts us at risk. We're a little bit on the older side. We're over 50, but we're generally healthy, so we feel like we can risk that to help other people. And I just keep hearing those stories over and over and over again from people, from communities coming together, and that's really, really encouraging and really heartening to see that.
It's been amazing to see the community. Like my son works for a couple of the different towns in their youth services programs, and works with a lot of kids in the grade school, middle school, first couple of years of high school. So he runs one program, then works part time for another program. It's been amazing to see him adapt to the situation where they do Zoom conference calls with any kids who go on board, and they talk about what's going on. And they try to make some fun projects. They did a photography contest. They're doing like a camp out where you pitch a tent in your living room, and one of the workers is going to sing camp songs. So they're trying to make it fun and a little engaging for the kids still, and try to break up the day a little bit. It's been fun to see how technology has kind of helped. We're on Zoom right now, and how technology has helped.
Oh yeah,
kind of everyone stay in touch with everybody, and it's not the same as if we're face to face, but can be somewhat close.
Yeah, it helps. Clayton, how about you? Thumbs
So
up and
you
thumbs down.
you all made very good, very, very good arguments and points. I'm finding it hard to actually say something completely different than what you guys have already said. Again, I'll touch on good things first. I think the whole thing about coming out and making a push to be more hygienic as a society has been a huge thing. Um, I've seen a lot of good things come out of helping those that work in the practice of medicine and dealing with. There's a lot of people out there making masks at homes because of a shortage of masks due to the unpreparedness of the federal government and even state governments in regards to COVID-19. I guess in regards to social distancing, I mean that's a great practice as well that has been going on since COVID-19 hit here in the U.S. I think one of the things that I would have liked to see different, though, is probably this whole, I mean, it hasn't really hit the state of Iowa in regards to this, but the whole shelter in place, I feel, is almost a little unconstitutional. Yeah, I understand the benefits of it, but at the same time, when you're restricting and telling a person that they have to stay at home, that they have no choice, that they're legally supposed to stay at home, when it goes against, I think, what I would say is a human right to travel, not even a constitutional right, but a human right to travel, kind of goes against that. Um, but you could also look at different things. Like a good thing that I saw that I think should actually go into being regularly enforced by different businesses. Some businesses have started investing in those laser thermometers to read the temperature of employees coming into work. So, with that being said, you're starting to risk the contamination of products going out of these manufacturing facilities, or risking other coworkers getting sick, or different employees getting sick from that. Because at one point, I worked at a conservative political call center, back when I was still repping the big R. um, but while I was there, we had a lot of people come in, and they were always getting sick, always getting sick, always getting sick. There was always somebody sick in the call center. A lot of it had to do with hygiene. Now, you can't control everybody's hygiene, so when they were coming in and they were getting sick, they were contaminating everything around me. And the fact that I had to put on a headset and I had something right next to my mouth the entire time I was talking, just contamination everywhere. Um, I even got sick I got sick while working there, and I had wiped my desk down with Lysol like over 16 times in that one day, and I ended up getting sick, and it was not fun. But again, social distancing. One of the things that I think is bad that they kept doing is it goes back to keeping in mind what businesses are essential and which are not. Um, So one of the things I wanted to, I kind of was thinking about this as you guys were talking about it, is you could talk about how um, Planned Parenthood is being viewed by most state governments as an essential business. And some states are even recognizing church services, even though from their vehicle, as an essential service to the community. So I've seen in the news in some states where Planned Parenthood is allowed to stay open and in operation, whereas Easter drive-in services have been outlawed. Or even in the case of, which I don't necessarily condemn or praise, Pastor Rodney Howard Brown on his efforts of having the service, but what I would consider his arrest unlawful as well. So it kind of gives us a good idea as to um, where we are, I guess, as a society, to see what is accepted by most of Americans and what's rejected, or even some of the motives of the government. Again, I'll hit on which you can't remember which one said it, but we were hitting on the communication from state level governors and federal level governors is probably the most we've seen in a long time as far as communication goes,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
which has been
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, and it's nice knowing that we have politicians that are in office that are actually putting in work when it comes down to the state level. Federal level, as far as those sitting on Capitol Hill, not so much. It was a little alarming when I found out that Rand Paul actually had coronavirus. He was sitting in on sessions, doing government business, sitting next to
Yeah.
several other senators, and that was
Not a very
not
good
okay.
example. Yeah.
So they should have definitely done something about that as soon as they knew a pandemic was about to hit America. And again, that comes down to where we were definitely, in my opinion, I don't think we were nearly as prepared for the pandemic as we were, because we would have had way more things set up in place. And you can see that through the shortage of ventilators, the shortage of masks, and this president POTUS Donald Trump says, oh, he's got everything under control. He had, months ago he said he had everything under control with preparations, and it's just going to show that we weren't necessarily as prepared as we thought. So I think preparedness could have been a little bit, well, not a little bit, much better. So.
Now, one of the things that I have appreciated, I have heard a couple of governors talking about the fact that yeah, we can't order people to stay at home. And one of the things I pointed out early on was with our governor in Pennsylvania, Governor Wolf. He actually the list of essential and non-essential businesses that they put out, it isn't really, I think essential and non-essential are nice terms that they decided on. What it really came down to was businesses that we could threaten to pull their license if they didn't comply, and businesses that didn't fall into that category. So, for example, obviously, if they wanted to tell beer distributors or bars that you're going to shut down, otherwise we're going to pull your license and you're going to be out of business, that's a fairly easy choice for a business to make. But you didn't actually tell people you have to shut down your businesses. So that's kind of a gray area for me. It was interesting seeing people get upset about that, and I'm like, well, honestly, he had that ability to do that at any time by executive order, because you've allowed the state to license so many things and so many parts of your businesses. It's the fact that it's a pandemic is irrelevant. He could have decided to do it for Super Bowl Sunday, right? And with the same effect. So it is kind of highlighting some of the cracks in our system, some of the places where there's a little bit too much regulation. I'd say there's a lot too much regulation in a lot of places. So it's good to see people seeing that.
Definitely.
Excuse me.
I was just thinking, and so this whole thing happening, and POTUS Donald Trump coming out and declaring emergency powers, giving every governor emergency powers during this time. It's really gone to show that emergency powers are even a little bit. They've been giving these politicians and these career-long politicians a little too much power, I think, in my opinion. Now, given a lot of these people do have, they do have the best thing in mind for most of the people in office, for those in their state. But at the same time, when you look at it and you start getting these major two parties involved in their ideas, you take a step back, you get to start seeing these different things, like we were talking about with the stimulus package, and how the Democrats wiggled their way in there to negotiate getting some things that they wanted out of it. And even Republicans are getting things that they want out of it. And I think this is a good thing that came out of it, as far as coming from a third party or a libertarian standpoint, is the fact that we can take a look back and we can realize that, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are actually both pretty much socialist in their own manners. And socialism is here in America, and there's nothing. Well, there is stuff we can do about it, but it's going to be pretty hard. It's going to be a pretty hard fight over a period of time to make that change.
Absolutely. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. Give you guys a chance to chime in and say whatever you want at the end of it all. But I am going to ask you one more question, which is, we have no idea how long this is going to go on. We have no idea what things are going to be like when it finally ends and life kind of goes back to normal. But it is going to happen at some point. So when it does, where are you going to go out to eat the first time you get the chance? So we'll start with you, Chris. What do you say?
I'm probably gonna go to. I'll go to Anchorage because that's where all the good restaurants are. Probably gonna go to the Glacier Brew House. Get me some jambalaya and a nice beer. So yeah.
Oh man, that's jambalaya sounds delicious. Oh man, mouth is watering now.
Yep.
Okay, how about you, Clayton?
I think I'm probably gonna take a quick hour-long trip up to Des Moines and have some zombie burger.
Oh man, when I was in Des Moines, I ate there. That was delicious. Zombie burger was fantastic. And we'll round it out with you, Jeff. How about you?
I think kind of grew up in a couple towns south of here, a place called the Park Lunch, a little small hole in the wall bar / restaurant, and they have the best fried clams. And that's I think that would be
Oh,
my first meal out.
yeah,
They're still open doing takeout, but it's better to eat them there with
yeah.
nice cold beer.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think for us it'd be what we call the meat place. You know, Texas de Brazil down in Pittsburgh. It's a Brazilian steakhouse sort of place. You know they bring all the meat around to every table, and probably in this day and age, it would be horribly. You'd be like, oh no, somebody just breathed on that, take it away. But I look forward to the chance to get back there. So, anyways, thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming on with me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your points of view, and it's nice. It's interesting too to see that people from such different parts of the country, different backgrounds, even in different political places on the political spectrum, are looking at this situation, and a lot of us down in the trenches, to use that phrase, are seeing it the same way, even if we think that the governors are trying to pull a fast one, or the legislatures are trying to jam something through on us. We know that at least our fellow citizens have our back. So that's wonderful. Thank you guys again for being here, and hope you all have a great night.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks,
Sam.
Rob. You have a wonderful night too.
Thank you guys.